Hi there, how's it going? This is Sayulita, a classic little Mexican beach town where I've been hanging out for the past 4 days, going on various adventures around here, showing some of the other little beach towns. But today I'm going to have a relaxing day, not going on an exploring adventure, pardon the music there, but I'm going to walk over to the beach and have a mellow day today, take a break from the exploring. And so I was thinking about what to make a video about and realized that it has been 20 years since the absolutely devastating Asian tsunami and earthquake that occurred on December 26th, 2004. And so I thought that I would talk about where I was at that time, as well as seeing some tsunami damage sometime later. I will explain that in a few minutes. But the 2004 tsunami, also called the Boxing Day tsunami because December 26th is called Boxing Day in some countries. It was one of the deadliest natural disasters in world history. 228,000 dead as a result of a massive 9-point earthquake in the Indian Ocean off of Banda Aceh, Indonesia, which then resulted in a massive tsunami with waves of up to 100 feet that hit the shores of many different countries. People killed in 14 different countries around the Indian Ocean: Indonesia, India, Thailand, Myanmar, etc. Going back in time a bit, I was not in a traveling phase of my life at this point. So the last traveling that I had done was almost 5 years earlier, when I got back from my first trip to India in March 2000. After that trip, I decided to go back to university. I had been to university in Alaska for a couple years, and then a couple semesters in California, but didn't have my degree yet, and so decided to finally go for it and get a degree, which ended up being in world religions at Humboldt State University in Northern California. Graduated from there in 2002, and then decided to move to Portland, Oregon, where I got various jobs, including a restaurant food delivery job, which was my main job there, and I lived in Portland until 2009. But I did take some traveling breaks, and so that will be a factor in just a minute. But on that day, December 26th, 2004, I was in Logan, Utah. My brother and his now wife, they got married the next year in 2005, but the two of them were living there in Logan and attending the university. So I flew out there, and I'm pretty sure that my dad also flew out there and was there for Christmas. And then the next morning we wake up to see the just horrific news and saw some of the footage, etc. So that is the answer to where I was on that terrible day. And I could picture it just a little bit because I had been to India and it hit the southeastern coast of India, including around where I had been on that trip when I went to Rameshwaram in far southern India on the coast there, and some other places around there. But I would get a closer up look at it a year later. So I went back to Portland after Christmas, continued my life and job there, worked for the next year, and then I was ready for traveling. It had been almost 6 years now at that point. So in December of 2005, then I had a flight booked back to India for the second time, this time to South India. The flight departed on December 31st, 2005. I landed in Chennai in South India at 11:30 p.m. December 31st, 2005. And so I can say that I experienced New Year's in India a number of times. That would be one of the times. As I was sitting in the taxi from the airport to my hotel, then there were fireworks going off and celebrations, etc. in the street. So I stayed in Chennai for just a couple of days, and then I went down to Oroville, which is near Pondicherry. Oroville is an experimental spiritual community, really interesting place, and I spent a month there at 3 different guest houses over the course of that month. It was right near the beach, and so I would go down to the beach, and at one point then I remember seeing the shell of this concrete building. It was like this just concrete basic structure with nothing in it and like no roof probably. And somehow, for some reason, I ended up talking with somebody, maybe a local walked past or something, and he ended up telling me this was a house that was destroyed by the tsunami, and the family that lived there died in the tsunami. Here you go, Sayulita Beach. I'm going to walk that way, but first, take off the sandals. That's better. Nice to feel the feet in the sand. And let's walk this way. The plan is to get down there and just swim, work on my tan, stop at one of these little shack restaurant things and get a drink, have a chill day. So that was not the end of my direct experience with the effects of the tsunami. After my month in Oroville and Pondicherry there, then I went off on further adventures around India. That trip was 3 months altogether. So I think that I went to Hampi for the first time. I went to Bangalore. I went to one of my favorite place names in the world, Shravanabelagola. Try to say that one 10 times fast. Shravanabelagola is the Mecca, so to speak, for Jains, the Jain religion of India. There's a big statue of their leader. I think not a god, but maybe a real person, I forget. But anyways, they're holy saints. They're in Shravanabelagola. I can't remember where else I went on that trip. But eventually, then I decided to go to the Andaman Islands, which are islands of India that are closer to Thailand than they are to India. The Andaman Islands and the Nicobar Islands. The Andaman Islands are a popular tourist destination. The Nicobar Islands are off limits to tourists and to basically everybody except researchers, because indigenous people live there who are not in contact with the modern world. There was a big news story recently in which a missionary, not recently, but a number of years ago, a very young Christian missionary went there and got a boat ride out there and tried to go talk with them and basically convert them, and they killed him on the spot. So those are the Nicobar Islands, but the Andaman Islands are really beautiful. A bunch of different islands there. So you can get there two ways, by boat or by plane. And I had learned that there was a boat from Chennai out to the islands there. It was only $30 for a 2.5-day ferry ride, including a bunk and all food, for $30 US. And so I went for it and met a bunch of cool people on the ferry boat, several of whom I ended up getting off the boat with and going from there to the next island, Havelock Island, that we went to, where I stayed for most of the time there. About a week, I think. And so it was there on Havelock Island that I heard the story of what they experienced on that island, because closer to Thailand, it was even closer to the epicenter of the earthquake and the effects of the tsunami than South India was. So what happened for them was they didn't get hit by a massive tsunami where they were located, but the seas started to rise. I think they hadn't heard news of the earthquake yet. They didn't know anything about anything happening. Isolated little island. And so suddenly the sea water started to rise. Relatively slowly, I guess, but over the course of minutes or whatever. And the residents of the island thought that the island was sinking. They, didn't have the perspective to know, like, the water coming up, is the island going down, what's going on here? So they thought the island was sinking. The water just kept rising and rising. And then it was when the water went away that it pulled stuff into the ocean. And so that was the worst effects that they experienced there on that island, was just the water going back into the sea and pulling with it, all kinds of belongings and washing machines and etc. So it wasn't devastating for the island, and I forget, but I think nobody died there as a result. But it, stole stuff from the homes and businesses or whatever, dragged it into the sea, and certainly caused some damage. And so at some point while I was there, then I went to this one beach and went snorkeling there, and I could see just all of these strange sort of effects on not just the sand, but the land, the lower part of the hills or something like that, and then trees. It was obvious that something had happened here, and I think that I asked somebody about it later, and they said yes, that was tsunami damage there. just the water rushing in there and just messing up the beach and the dirt by the trees, etc. Maybe there were some trees that were, you know, down a little bit, something like that, but there was some effect of the tsunami there. So that basically covers it. And so that was in, I think, March of 2006, because I was there January, February, March, and that was the end of my trip with the Andaman Islands. And so that was a year and 3 months later after the tsunami. And then after my time there on the Andaman Islands, then I caught a flight back from there to Chennai, and then I had a flight booked back to Oregon and went back to my life there in spring of 2006 and worked that same delivery job for the next year and a half. And then fall of 2007, I went on another much bigger trip for, I think, 8 months back to Asia, to Hawaii, Thailand, India, Nepal. And then, long story, actually I ended up in Jasper National Park after that. I was just up in the area, Banff, Canmore, Calgary, Lake Louise, and talked about my story of driving up to Jasper. That was after coming back from that Asia trip. I had a car and decided to go on a road trip and try to get a job there in Canada, and got the job in Jasper. Worked there for just a few months, and then went back to Portland, Oregon. Got another place to live there. My old job delivering food. Did that for less than a year until August 2009, and then decided I wanted to do more traveling, and went to Greece, Egypt, and Turkey for that summer and fall, and never went back to Portland. So there you go. A very devastating, historic event. Hard to believe that it has been 20 years already since that's occurred. All right, time for me to chillax. More coming tomorrow from Mexico. Hasta luego.